Here an electric current is passed through a circuit containing two wires of same material connected in parallel. If the length and the radii of the wire are in the ratio 3:2 and 2:3, then the ratio of the current passed through the wires are. So this is going to be a bit, now I will not say it to be difficult, bit tricky. Again, you see, what are we concerned about? We are concerned about finding the current that is passing through the wires. And how are the wires connected? The wires are actually of same material and they are connected in parallel. Okay, so now we have to find what? The current that is going through them. So immediately I realize something. What do I realize? When two resistors are connected in parallel, what happens? The voltage drop on them will be same, but the current will be different. Okay, so applying Ohm's law, V times R1 divided by V times R2 goes down. Now we have to deal everything with the resistance. Okay, let me reduce something. How is your resistance written? Rho into L by A. Rho into L by A. Okay, both length and the cross section areas are going to be different. So R1 by R2 is equal to L1 by L2 of A2 by A1, which is equal to L1 by L2 of R2 squared, let me put it like that, R2 squared divided by R1 squared. So I'll have to just plug in everything into this and I'll finish it off, which is equal to L1 by L2 of R2 by R1 the whole squared equal to. So now what we have to do is we have to just plug in the values that is given to us in the question. So length is 3 by 2 and it is R2 by R1. So we have to reciprocal it and we have to plug it in, which is 3 by 2 the whole squared again. So which is equal to 3 by 2 into 9 by 4, which is equal to 27 by 8 it is. 27 by 8 it is. So option D will be our answer. So again, what did I do? I do the same exact thing. Took the formula and I have reduced according to my question, and then I have realized what is to be substituted in and how to be substituted, and I took all the quantities from my question and I have just put them in and we ended up with the answer. So this is how the things really work in here. In a potentiometer, the balancing with a cell at a length of 220 centimeters on shunting with a cell of resistance 3 ohms, the balancing length becomes 130 centimeter. And what is the internal resistance of the cell? Actually, there is a formula to find the internal resistance of a cell of a potentiometer, which is a straightforward question. So the formula goes like this: small r is equal to L1 minus L2 divided by L1 it is into capital R into capital R. So all you have to just do is you have to take all the equations and you have to plug it in and you have to directly get the answer. Okay, so just small correction, it's L2. It is L2. Okay. Now, what is L1 by the way? L1 is nothing but it is 220 centimeters. It is 220 centimeters and L2 is 130 centimeters. So now, what is capital R? It is 3 ohms. So small r is equal to 220 minus 130. 220 minus 130 divided by 130 into capital R it is. So all we have to do is simple subtraction and then a division. So listen, small r is equal to, so what will you get on subtracting this? We will get 0, 9, 0 and then 9 by 13 into 3. So small r is equal to 27 by 13 it is. It is 27 by 13. Now you have to just divide this to get the answer. 27 by 13 is nothing but 2.08 ohms it is. 2.08 ohms it is. So this is how the 12th question is done. Simple, direct formula, and then the respective quantities are given to us in the question. Yeah, you have to take it down, plug it in and finish it off. So this is how this is done. So now we move to the next question. Here it is again a potentiometer question. Listen, a 10-meter long wire of uniform cross section, a potentiometer is connected in series with a battery of 5 volt along with an external resistance of 480 ohms it is, which is balanced at 6 meter length. Okay, now the question is, when your potentiometer is 10 meters, then what happens? It is being connected to a battery of 5 volt. Okay, it has been balanced somewhere. Okay, it has been balanced somewhere like at 6 meters. Then they are asking us to find where will it get balanced when it is going to be of 6 meters. Okay, now listen, what I am going to do is, I am going to generalize the whole thing and I have to find the current first, where current I is equal to E by R plus R prime, E by R plus R prime, which is equal to the E which is connected in the whole circuit is 5 volt divided by, what are all the resistance? One is 480 ohms and the other one is the 20 ohm resistance. Okay, so one is 4 ohms and the other one is the 20 ohm resistance. One is 480, right? 480 plus 20. So what we have to do is, we have to just divide it and get the answer. 5 divided by 500 it is. 5 divided by 500 it is. So which is nothing but 1 by 100. 1 by 100 is 0.01 amperes. 0.01 amperes it is. And if this is the case, then V is equal to I into R. V is equal to I into R. So what is I, by the way? I is nothing but 0.01 amperes. 0.01 amperes it is, and R being the resistance, which is 20 ohms. I'll just put it in here. So my V is equal to 0.2 volt. It is 0.2 volt. Then if it is 0.2 volt for 10 meters, then how much will it be for 6 meters? Listen, what I will do is 0.2 by 10 into 6, which is equal to 0.1 divided by 5. 0.6 by 5 it is, which is equal to 0.12 volt. 0.12 volt it is. Clear? This is how the things really are. When the whole situation is the same, then you will get a 0.2 volt. for the 10 meter. If it is for the 6 meter, then it becomes 0.12 volt. This is how the things really work in here. So now, with this note, we move to the next question. A straight wire is having a mass of 0.1 kilogram and a length of 1 meter carrying a current of 5 amperes. If the wire is suspended in a mid-air by an uniform horizontal magnetic field, then what is the magnitude of the field is? So now what happens is, we are using a straight wire of a particular mass which is 1.2 kilograms, which is 1.2 kilograms, right? And the length of the wire is 1 meter and it carries a current of 5 amperes. It carries a current of 5 amperes. And the wire is suspended in a mid-air by an uniform horizontal magnetic field. Okay, you are passing a magnetic field in such a way that that magnetic field produces a force, and that force holds, and that force will hold the entire wire. So now what I can say is 1.2 into 10 equal to the weight. The entire weight of the wire is balanced by the magnetic force, which is B into I into L, which is B into I into L. So 1.2 into 10, 12 is equal to B into, what is I? 5 amperes. 5 amperes. And what is length? The length of the wire is 1 meter. Okay. So B is equal to 12 divided by 5 is equal to 2.4 it is. 2.4 Tesla it is. See? Easy and straightforward. Why do I write bill in here? Bill is the force experienced by a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. No. So that the weight of the entire wire is balanced by the magnetic force, and by doing that I directly get the magnetic field that is required to support the whole thing. To support the whole thing. So this is how the things really work in here. The magnetic field at the center of a circular loop of area A is B. Then what is the magnetic moment of a loop is? Right. First, the magnetic field is given. First, the magnetic field is given for a particular circular loop and it is B. Then you are supposed to find the magnetic moment. Okay. So magnetic moment of any circular loop is N times I into A. N times I into A. That is the magnetic moment, where the magnetic field B is equal to mu naught N into I by mu naught N into I by 4 into pi into R of 2 pi it is. This is the magnetic field for a circular loop at its center. Now what we have to do is, we have to take this and we have to use it into this to find the magnetic moment. So this is current I and this is the current I. So I have to rewrite the entire equation to do this. Okay. Let me do something. I'll just bring this down as 2, and 2 times R by mu naught times N is equal to I. Mu naught times N is equal to I. I'll put that in. So M is equal to N into 2R by mu naught into N of A. What is A? Area. A is nothing but the area. Okay. Let me write it straight away. Okay. So this is how it is. But unfortunately, if you just take a look at this, what do you see? What do you see? We see that R is not present in any part of the equation. So I understand that I have to change my R. Okay. So listen, what I do is I replace my R. So how to replace my R? Area is equal to pi into R squared. So R is equal to root of A by pi it is. Root of A by pi it is. So plug in that R. M is equal to 2 into n into A. 2 into n into A into B by mu naught times n. Okay, so n and n will go down, so no problem with that. So R is replaced as root of A by pi. So M is equal to 2 into A into B of root A by mu naught times root pi. Mu naught times root pi. So this is the expression for the magnetic moment. This is the expression for the magnetic moment of a circular loop. Okay, so from this I get to know that my answer is option D. You see, this is a tricky problem, but it's not impossible. What did I do? First, I realized that my formula is n times I into A. Then I wrote the expression for the magnetic field at the center of a loop, and I have accordingly rewrote everything and I have plugged it into that to get the answer. So this is how the problem is dealt in here. Three infinitely long parallel straight current carrying wires A, B and C are kept at equal distances from each other as shown in the figure. The wire C experiences a net force F. Then the net force on the wire C when the current in the wire A is reversed will be. So what we have to do is, there are three wires that are placed at equidistant. Okay, and the direction of the current is also given in that. Okay, now what we are supposed to find is, we are supposed to find the net force on the wire C when the direction of the current A is reversed. Already in the same direction of the current, the force experienced by the wire C is given as F. Okay, now first, force experienced by a current carrying wire placed in a magnetic field is given as B into I into L. It is given as B into I into L. So with this, first I will write the net force on C and then I will slowly reduce them. Okay, so force on C. First let me write the directions. You see, this wire will induce a magnetic field that is pointing in on this wire, and even this wire will induce a magnetic field that is pointing in on this wire. So now to find the force, we have to raise the right hand. We have to raise the right hand and we have to place the hand in such a way that our palm is pointing in. Our palm is pointing in because the field is pointing in, and all the four fingers should be in the direction of the current. All the four fingers should be in the direction of the current. So force due to A will point this side and force due to B will point this side, FA and FB, right? So the net force F net is equal to first FA plus FB. FA is nothing but mu naught times 2I by 4 pi into R. Okay, actually let me expand this. Mu naught I by 2 pi into are I1, I2 into L2. This is the formula. So I will be using the same thing in here. I1 is the current in this and I2 is the current in that, and the length also is given. Okay, so now mu naught into 2I into I times L divided by 2 into pi into 2R, because the distance between this is 2R. Then plus force on C due to B, mu naught into I into I times L by 2 pi of R. 2 pi of R it is. So if you just have a look at this, what happens? Almost both the equations are the same. Okay, that is force due to A and force due to B are the same. That is what I understand by seeing this. So now I am going to do the same exact approach again for the wire C by reversing the direction of the current in A. Okay, the same exact approach. Now listen. Again the net force on C when the direction of the current in A is reversed. So listen, I am going to reverse the direction of the current. If the direction of the current is reversed, the magnetic field that is induced on C will point out, and again due to this it will point in without any change. So for A the force will point this side, for B the force will again point this side. This is FB, FA, and this is FB. Okay, so these are the two forces, and now the expression is going to be the same. The expression is going to be the same, but the direction of the forces acting on C are different. So F net is equal to 0 in the next case. F net is equal to 0 in the next case when the current in A is reversed. Why? Because F net is equal to FA minus FB, and from this we get to know that FA is equal to FB. That is the reason why I choose that the net force on the wire C will be 0 when the direction of the current on A is reversed. That is easy and straightforward. See, here all you have to know is to find the direction of the force. How to find the direction of the force? First, find the direction of the magnetic field that is induced on that, and use your right hand rule to find the direction of the force. By doing that, you will directly end up with the answer. Okay, now we move to the next question. Here, the range of the voltmeter of resistance 300 ohm is 5 volt, and resistance to be connected to convert it into an ammeter of range 5 amperes is. So now what you have to do is, you have to find how much amount of resistance is required to connect to the galvanometer to convert it to an ammeter of range 5 amperes. Okay, so I is equal to 5 amperes. This is the amount of current that is going to go into the ammeter, that is the galvanometer, and Ig is the galvanometer current. Okay, Ig is the galvanometer current, which is nothing but V by R. What is V in here? V is nothing but 5 volt, and the resistance is 300 ohms, and the resistance is 300 ohms by 60. It is 60, where Ig is equal to 1 by 60 amperes it is. Ig is equal to 1 by 60 amperes it is. So now all we have to do is, we have to directly go to the formula to find the shunt when a galvanometer is converted to ammeter, and we have to do the rest. See, the shunt S is given as Ig into G divided by capital I minus Ig. capital I minus Ig. This is the amount of shunt that should be connected to convert a galvanometer to an ammeter. So listen, the Ig is nothing but 1 by 60. What is the galvanometer resistance? It is 300 ohms divided by, what is the current that we are going to pass through it? It is 5 amperes minus of Ig is again 1 by 60. So I just cancel this, we will get 5 in here, where S is equal to 5 divided by 5 minus 1 by 60. So let's assume that this value is going to be very less, and I will just neglect this away. I can just neglect this away. On neglecting that, 5 by 5 is nothing but 1 ohm. That too, to convert a galvanometer to ammeter, you have to connect a shunt resistance of 1 meter in parallel to a galvanometer. So S is equal to 1 ohms it is. S is equal to 1 ohm it is. Clear? So this is how the things really work in here. So with this note, we move to the next question. Here, two wires of same length are shaped into a square of side A and circle of radius R. If they carry a same current, the radius of their magnetic moment will be, where the magnetic moment is given as I into A, current times the area of a coil. Here we are dealing with the square and a circle. So listen, M1 by M2 is equal to magnetic moment of a square. So listen, same amount of current is going to pass through both square and the circle, but the only thing that is going to differ is the area. So let me say that the area of a square of side A is A square divided by, the circle has a radius of R, so that is pi into R squared. That is pi into R squared. Now I am going to compare the length of a circle and a square. See, 2 into pi into R is the circumference of a circle, and the length of a square is 4 times A. So now I am going to replace my A like this, where A is equal to 2 pi into R. A is equal to 2 by pi R, sorry, it is 1 by 2 into pi R. Okay, small a is equal to 1 by 2 into pi R. So what I will do is I will just plug in this A in here. Which is equal to pi R by 2 divided by pi into R squared. Pi and pi will go down, where R, wait, here I will substitute this and we have to square it. Okay, pi square R square by 4 by pi into R square it is. Yes. So now R square and R square will go down, pi and pi will go down. What you are left with is pi by 4 it is. That is the ratio of the magnetic moment of the square and a circle. So option C will be our answer. Option C will be our answer. So all we have to do is we have to find the relationship between the length of a circle and the length of a square, and we have to use that relationship into this equation to conclude the ratio. So this is how the things really work. See, again, there is no much of a complication in here. All you have to do is you have to stick with the basics. you have to take the basic formula to find the magnetic moment and you have to accordingly substitute the values for them. Coming to the 46th question, a proton and an electron with the same momenta enters in a magnetic field in a direction at right angle to the line of the force, then the radius of the path followed by them will be the same. The radius of the path followed by them will be the same. The electron has less mass than the proton. Select the most appropriate answer from the options given below. Okay, first let me write the equation that associates these two. See, m into v square by r is equal to the centripetal force comes into the play because of the magnetic force. What is the magnetic force? It is BQV. Okay, this V and this V goes down, and m into V is equal to BQ into R. Otherwise R is equal to mv by BQ. So what I can say is R is equal to P by BQ. P by BQ. So magnetic field applied is also constant. The charge value for both proton and electron is also the same. So what I can say is radius is directly proportional to P. So for both proton and the electron, the radius it makes is going to be the same. So your assertion is true. Since your assertion is true, I will just discard my option D. Okay. So now, next statement, the electron has less mass than the proton. That is true. Okay, no problem in that. Electron has less mass, but that is not the explanation for your assertion. So option B is correct. So option B is the correct answer for this question. Clear? Very easy. I have analyzed two statements individually and I try to relate them. If they get related, I will choose A. If they don't relate, I will choose B. Okay, now I will move to the next one. On increasing the current sensitivity of a galvanometer by increasing the number of turns, may not increase the voltage sensitivity. That is true. Yes, I will prove. See, what did I say? Theta is equal to NBIA by K. I think we did the same problem few moments ago. This is the deflection made by that. Current sensitivity is nothing but deflection made per unit current. So theta by I. So if I put I in here, this I and this I will go down. We will be left with NBA by K. So the current sensitivity, this together is called the current sensitivity. This is associated with N. So if the number of turn increases, of course the current sensitivity of your galvanometer will also accordingly increase. Well and good. Now they are asking whether the voltage sensitivity will also increase accordingly. Let's see. You see, theta by V is equal to NB IA by K into R into K into R. Okay, K is called the torsional constant. Theta by V is called the voltage sensitivity. Theta by V is called the voltage sensitivity. But if you just realize, if I increase the number of turns, the radius, the resistance at the denominator will also increase accordingly. So your voltage sensitivity will not increase as we increase the number of turns, but the current sensitivity will increase. So the first statement is true. Now the resistance of the coil of the galvanometer will increase on increasing the number of turns. That is also true. Okay, and moreover, that is the explanation why your voltage sensitivity didn't increase as you increase the number of turns. So I choose to go with the option A. See, that is how I conclude this. Both are correct. At the same time, both are related to. So now we move to the next question. Given below the assertion, to increase the range of an ammeter, we must connect a suitable high resistance in series to it. Okay. Next, the ammeter with increased range should have high resistance. That is what is given to you in the question. So first we have to analyze. If we are going to convert a galvanometer to ammeter, we have to connect the low resistance in parallel with it, which is called shunt. So your assertion is wrong. Next, ammeter with increased range should have high resistance. That is also wrong. So this makes our job very simple. Both the statements are wrong. So option D should be your correct answer. Okay. The question goes like, a charge Q moves in a region where the electric and the magnetic field both exist. Then the force on it will be. So since we have already dealt with the electric field and the magnetic field in the previous sessions, we came to know that whenever a charge is kept in an electric field, depending on the magnitude of the charge, the direction of the force experienced by the charge will be depending on. Likewise, if a charge moves with a particular velocity v in a uniform magnetic field, so according to the direction of velocity and the magnitude of the charge, the direction of the force will differ. So here 4 options represents the complete force experienced by a charge which is in the influence of electric and magnetic field. There is a force called as a Lorentz force. There is a force called as the Lorentz force, which is given as force due to the electric field plus the force due to the magnetic field. This is the overall force experienced by a charge Q. Okay, so capital F represents the Lorentz force, which is nothing but the sum of the force of the charge in the electric and magnetic field. So what will be the expression for the force experienced by the charge in the electric field? It is nothing but Q times E. Likewise, the force experienced by the charge in the magnetic field is represented as Q into V bar cross B bar. So later on, this can be rewritten as BQV, considering that the angle between the velocity and the magnetic field is 90 degree. So this is the expression for the force experienced by a charge that is placed in a region which consisting of both magnetic as well as the electric field. So the option B will be our answer. So with this note, we end this session. Thank you.